Be a free thinker and don't accept everything you hear as truth. Be critical and evaluate what you believe in. Aristotle. The super elites are planning something big and ugly. Help spread awareness. Please like, subscribe, share these videos.
On the issue of digital euro, which is a little bit outside the strategy review, but not completely, because it's a project that we will decide upon later in January once we finish the consultation process that is underway at the moment. Clearly, that will have an impact on the issue of remittance that you pointed to, because if transfer costs can be significantly reduced thanks to digital uses and through good cross-border payments that have to come together with a digital central bank currency, then certainly that would help. Now, I'm not under the illusion that it's going to happen right away. Let's face it, because a digital currency is going to take time to make sure that we master all the technicalities, all the pitfalls and the traps that we might find in the process. So let's not count our chicken too early, but I do believe that there is hope in the combination of a good cross-border payment, more efficient, faster, cheaper, and digital currency. So we will carry on that pace.
The digital euro, they will decide later by January 1st, 2021. They're in a consultation phase. At the moment, the ECB is drawing blueprints, planning, testing. They're presenting this as a cheaper, more efficient method. Lagarde states that this is going to take time, but I would like to point out that this is crypto, and crypto has a baby market cap. If the central bankers, the issuers, and creators of fiat, if they were to utilize crypto assets, just the announcement of that without utility would be the opportunity of a lifetime. Quote, I do believe that there is hope in the combination of good cross-border payments, more efficient, faster, and cheaper, and digital currency, so we will carry on.
Very pleased to see the United States accelerate its work in this because of interoperability. The last thing the world needs is for the United States to not be engaged and then wake up 3 years from now and suddenly say, oh, we are going to engage. And oh, by the way, we want to go in a different technological direction. We're going to not be concerned with some of the interoperability aspects. So the United States needs to be engaged now. But ultimately, it's about incorporating those values into a successful deployment of CBDC.
The first movers have the advantage of creating the base layer of the Internet of Value. Do you really believe that the United States is allowing this to happen? When push comes to shove, the emergency happens and the laws will be ready, the projects will be ready, with the aid of the private sector. Throughout history, the United States does not allow themselves to be at a disadvantage, despite what is being said.
Just having a central bank issued digital currency still does not solve the dynamic of needing to settle a transaction, settle a payment between the Argentinian peso and the Australian dollar. Having really simple transaction dynamics, both on the messaging and on the liquidity, is still critical to make that work to really enable the Internet of Value. We think about and we talk about. So I actually see it in some of the work we are doing with central banks around the world. I think it's a very positive dynamic. And look, I think it's still unclear to me exactly how central bank issued digital currencies. Your last panel talked about this. What problems are they solving? Is it circumvention of some of the existing commercial banking infrastructure? How do those dynamics play out? Look, I don't know. What I do know is regardless of how that plays out, you still need a lot of, you need a neutral asset that doesn't carry that baggage as a central bank issued digital asset. And XRP as extremely efficient on the speed, extremely efficient on the cost per transaction, and the scalability is really well suited to help solve that, which is why Ripple has invested where we have.
In a world of distrust, in a world of trade wars, crooked bankers, corruption, horrible monetary policy, negative interest rate, horrible fiscal policy, the world needs trustless assets. Crypto assets are designed for the back end. The public is going to use it and they won't be aware of it. The governments, the banks, the institutions, the corporates will be aware. The level playing field is for them, not for us. A trustless asset is key in today's current landscape.
Actively chasing whatever is new, there's no controls around this thing yet. There's no good reporting yet. There's no, they're so far on the bleeding edge. It's not the leading edge, right? But you can't do that with other people's money. It's fine if it's yours. It's fine if it's you and your brother, or it's a couple venture guys that are recognizing that, 90% chance we're never going to see this money again.
Yeah.
And they might get big hits.
The idea is not to invest in anything. It has a nice acronym like sushi or kimchi, right?
Exactly. So you start conservative, right? It's like anything else. If you're learning, right, start conservative. Start with the people who've already walked this road. Learn how it works. That's probably appropriate for you to be bringing people, retail, your customers into it.
Right.
XRP has been around for a very long time. When the central bankers decide that it's time, they're not going to choose the newest coin. They're going to choose something that withstands the test of time.
When I lived in Alabama, I was a helicopter pilot. There was a town called Enterprise, and they had a statue that held up a boll weevil. And I was like, the craziest statue I've ever seen. Well, the boll weevil ate all the cotton, and then they planted peanuts, and that brought prosperity to the region. In some way, the cryptocurrency community is going to hold up a virus, the COVID virus, because it was the COVID virus that really accelerated, as horrible as that to sound, accelerated adoption of crypto on two ways. The macro story with Bitcoin, and the more maybe important story of digitalization of all cash, digitalization of the financial services system. That's going to mostly be built on Ethereum.
There needs to be a stressor for evolution. The virus is the stressor. Now you're watching the evolution of the global financial system. We are watching the system evolve. This is a video clip from the World Economic Forum. They want you living off of the bare minimum. They want you to rent everything, perpetual debt slaves. What's happening in this video will be supported by the actions the central bankers take. This is what their goal is.
The greatest concentration of central banking power in history is really the bid they're aiming at. That's the central bank's goal. And of course, digital accounts of dissenters and regime critics could be switched off. It'd be very difficult to even purchase necessities. So this is an Orwellian dystopia of total control, the end of any freedoms. That's really what central banks are aiming at. Several central banks have, like the Bank of England, already prepared their microchip implant, RFID chip, to be implanted under your skin. And why is the sudden discussion about universal basic income from all the grassroots and inverted commas movements and billionaires? Universal basic income is the bribe for you to accept the microchip. The overarching trend of the 20th century is concentration of power in the hands of the few. That's what we have to keep in mind. We have to work against this.
The central banks around the world are the lenders and buyers of last resort. The governments of the world took loans from their central banks that can't be paid back. Deficit spending, meaning we are borrowing to pay for things we can't afford. The world is doing this on a massive scale with no end in sight. It seems as if this is the government's game plan. This is why the private sector is key. They will innovate out of the problems the bankers and governments have created.
On current form, it's going to sit on its hands at the G20 in Saudi Arabia. And maybe we will get away with it. Maybe everything will be okay and a recovery will come. But prudent policymakers hope for the best and plan for the worst. And we don't even have a plan for the best guess. We have a prayer for the best, and we call it a plan.
Larry Summers is sharing his skepticism about the debt relief for developing nations. The World Bank, the IMF, they don't have a game plan. The developing nations owe the developed nations and can't pay their minimum payment. What happens? The nations that are indebted to come and take their natural resources. Instead of paying us, we will take all of the oil of your country. We will take all the gold of your nation. We will take your labor. Everything of value in payment for the fiat debt you owe us.
If I start with the national arena, and this idea of a CBDC sort of taking over everything and would harm the banking system. But first of all, we have to remember history here, that central bank money in the form of cash and commercial bank money in the form of accounts have been working side by side for the best part of 150 years. So this is not a new thing. This is just technology changing, and we have to make decisions on how to adopt to that technology change. Now, as technology changes and the sort of the national borders here becomes a bit more blurry in this area, I think it's important to remember that, first of all, money is a competitive industry. I mean, if you look at history, it's really something attractive to have the rights to issue money. It's like an endless loan where you pay no interest. So of course it's attractive, and that's why governments sort of traditionally regulated it.
They have secured their seat in the next-gen global financial system. They're not going anywhere. Central bank digital currencies are the nation's fiat. All other crypto assets will complement CBDCs.
But on the other hand, we also do see a future where decentralization is very likely an unstoppable force out there. Decentralized networks, by definition, are cheaper, faster, and more resilient than any kind of centralized structure. And now that the technology exists to make that possible, it seems not only good, but inevitable that those things will arise. So our point was, let's identify the risks. Let's also articulate that we believe there are strong use cases for these things, and banks should feel free to participate so long as they can adequately manage risk.
The technology will be adopted when their hands are forced. The crisis situation where this is a fight or flight moment for the central banks. They were in complete control before. Once the crypto genie is out of the bottle, it's too late. That is why they delayed. The technology is useful, but they would rather keep the things the way they are for the time being. When they don't have options is when the crypto option comes into play.
And I would really describe 2020 as the moment where central banks have moved from research to action. There has been a lot of academic research on CBDC, a lot of conceptual discussion, and now it's time to move to experiments and building proofs of time to move to testing the building blocks of CBDC.
We have passed the cusp. We are in the testing phase. Things can rapidly change.
A well-functioning international monetary system and international financial system is key for global prosperity. It's key for growth. And that's where interoperability kicks in. Now, interoperability is a little bit of a catch-all word. I mean, it can mean different things. It could mean that CBDC platforms in different countries are connected. It could mean that CBDC platforms are built on common standards so that private operators, private players can access them. And that's very important because, as Cecilia rightly said, we need private players, we need payment service providers to be active using CBDC and connecting different places nationally and internationally. And that could also mean that end users could use multiple CBDCs in the same wallet, for instance. So these are different meanings for the same word, which is interoperability, and there are different technical answers. And that can also mean that countries' jurisdictions will be connected through their traditional payment system, RTGS systems. And if you have a good way to connect different RTGS systems in different places, and then CBDC is settled in the RTGS system, that's also a nice way to interconnect CBDCs. So you see there are different ways to do it, and that's why the discussion on CBDC is very, very closely linked to the broader discussion on cross-border payments, which John is leading for the G20 under the G20 action plan. It's one part of this broader discussion on cross-border payments.
The real-time gross settlement systems are updated. The system can change now. Will it? Not without a crisis situation. They will stall this as long as they can. When the system locks up, there is only gold or digital assets that will restore confidence in getting the global engine running again. They can either give up some control or they can give it all up with gold. When the storytelling goes bad in society, the result is decadence. Aristotle. Thank you for liking and subscribing. If you enjoy my work, please consider joining my Patreon.